Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is a new season of Hasuleague, and we're experimenting with a couple things, like having a nice little wave audio form visualizer in the bottom right hand corner. Hopefully the audio is working out as far as balance and everything as well. Bottom right hand corner we got Kiko. Upper left hand corner we've got White. White starting as the White Protoss appropriately, Kiko starting as the Red Terran. Both these guys actually strong contenders this season. There's a lot to talk about. So first of all, let's talk about the map. The map is Radion. It's a 4-player isometric map, except where you've got, although I guess not isometric. You don't have expansions here, but you do at the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock location with a little bit less gas than usual. So you got the full gas at the natural, but the pseudo half gas otherwise. So players oftentimes will opt to go for this, and Terran's gonna opt for that anyway. So there's been a lot going on. First of all, let's talk about the setup of Hasuleague. Well, actually, first let's talk about I'm back. I'm going to do this season of Hasuleague and see how it goes. I've been kind of fighting off illness, took a season off to try to, like, recuperate, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm not sure I was successful in doing that, but we're back in casting. This season of Hasuleague is somewhat different. They've adjusted the format to make it a little bit easier on the players and to kind of speed up the time effort for everybody. So what the initial stages are actually round robin. What that means is there's going to be 4 initial rounds where everybody plays everybody with an initial 16 players. And once you have the initial round, the winners play the winners. So if you have a 1-0 record, you play someone else with a 1-0 record. The losers play the losers. So if you have a 0-1 record, you play someone else with a 0-1 record. Looks like White's going to get the first scout here, by the way. And so on and so forth. And basically, and that continues for all 4 rounds. So if you win 3, you're guaranteed to advance. If you win 4, you're in the top seeded position exiting from there. So just so you know, we'll have a whole lot of games, a whole lot of matchups. Everybody's going to play everybody. I will cast what replays I managed to get. Also, we've had some Hasuleague graduates, so be sure to check out BSL Pro League as well, because the games have been fantastic, first of all, but also we've had some notable names. You have Doodle, who took out Hasuleague, and he showed some great matches. I won't give some spoilers, but I will say he played really, really well. You have Zeddy that's gone up there as well, and a number of other people that I don't want to mention absolutely everybody here, because I want to start focusing on the game. Looks like there's an initial scout here from White, was able to get a little bit of harassment on initial SCV, first Marine being produced. The meta has shifted quite a lot as well in the interim, and I'll try to catch you guys up on what's going on there. So it looks like Kiko, by the way, not getting scout upper right hand corner. White hang out at the natural expansion. Upgrade Terran, the kind of the word on the street is that Upgrade Terran is dead, which I wouldn't say is 100% true. What I would say is his Upgrade Terran is gotten really miffed. It's been nerfed a bit, where you can still do Upgrade Terran if you end up getting a lot of initial economic damage against your opponent, or if you're in some sort of slot where you know they really can't attack into you. But Protoss has gotten really good off 3 or 4 bases, macroing up sufficient forces to go ahead and stymie any sort of +1 attack. Initially, it started with some Reaver pushes, and then it started out, then it kind of transitioned to just having large amounts of Gateway forces and High Templar and whatnot. Basically, Protoss have kind of figured out the mid game versus Upgrade Terran, which has caused Terran to do adjustments. And what's really happened more than anything is this right here, which is why I wanted to start talking before I got too long, is a hyper aggression in the early stages of the game, both directions. What's become very, very important is getting this initial vulture on the map, especially to get to have a threat towards the natural expansion to pin Dragoons back. You can see Kiko withdrawing, initially moving out with several Marines to create a bit of a threat. It looks like the probe looks like he's not going to drop a pylon to block the machine shot, but does get taken out. But he's going to spot that initial vulture. It looks like White is kind of relegating himself, recognizing he's not going to be able to get a lot of Dragoons out on the map. He's sticking off 1 gateway, and I'm wondering if he's going to try to get sufficient Dragoons, go for a pylon block on the front, and go from there. First vulture making its way out, and SCV is alongside. Was stepping out just to see if he could catch anything, but basically having that initial vulture, if you can get that, there's been a lot of early game fights and a lot of tactician about sending out Marines and Marines with SCV support and Marines with other things. Usually 3 Marine kills a Dragoon. There's been a lot of variation on Protoss openers as far as SCVs. Looks like I believe Kiko is able to confirm the natural expansion there. Looks like he's just going to hang out, wait for the initial mines to get laid. But because of the strength of this initial vulture out on the map, and the map control these mines give, and the threat that poses, and causes Protoss to play a little bit more defensively with Dragoons towards the natural expansion, Terran have really emphasized the early game to try to get out on the map. Natural expansion, by the way, is in fact up. We get an initial siege tank, and it looks like we're just seeing the drone transfer. Kiko right now at an economic advantage. This isn't going to give... It doesn't mean white is absolutely dead at this stage. I'm expecting white to move out for a third. Still no mines planted, even though mines have been upgraded here, and a second factory dropping. But typically, after that initial stages of aggression, what it's really transitioned to in the mid game is from the Terran. It's almost like a game of game of chicken is what it's turned into in the mid game, where Protoss will oftentimes go up to 6, sometimes 7 or 8 gateways and flood a lot of units, and then test the Terran. And Terran will oftentimes go up to 5, 6, sometimes even 7, although 7's usually on the far edge of aggression. Kiko actually moving out with a little bit of a delay. He's kind of pressing out towards the front. This actually might be successful because there's only 4 Dragoons out on the field right this second. So if he can particularly catch them as they're moving out in a line, this could be very, very successful. Initial Dragoon taking a lot of damage. 1 Marine has dropped. 1 Dragoon has dropped as well. White mirroring this. Vulture speed not quite up online. It looks like the Dragoon is going to be able to wander up. It took a mine hit, but is able to take out that Vulture. So we got 3 Dragoons here in the backfield. I'm going to guess there's going to be 4 by the time they get to the base. But what this is going to do is this is kind of an interesting play here from Kiko. I like it. He's moving out early with a smaller grouping of units and with vultures to try to cut off that third early while he's still sitting and macroing off 2 bases. And on paper, if you are 2 base versus 2, that puts the Terran ahead. Is Kiko actually going to die? I thought he was going to go try to push off the third, instead aggressively laying mines on the front with this. And I think this is too many Dragoons, especially cross position, to really press into this. He's still got the mine laid there at the far corner. White hasn't managed to get an observer or a zealot out there to clear it just yet. Now starting to clear. Some vultures going to sneak up. It looks like they're going to go ahead and plant that mine to the north. I was hoping actually to see more of kind of a mine, less of an engagement, more of a minefield over here after some mines right here and positional play. But now that white has a lot of Dragoons and that observer to provide that counter pressure, Kiko's going to draw all the way back to the front. He doesn't have much of a front to defend, and he also does not have siege check done yet as well, and that's going to be a major threat. Although if white loses Dragoons, white being clever here as well, Kiko sneaking in some vultures in between is going to be able to get a few probe kills. White only staging a single Dragoon forward to check out the front right there, and actually leaving the I'm not sure why he wanted to check with that instead of the observer, but not revealing the entirety of his attack force. He actually, those vultures sneaking up under for Kiko were monumental because that kept white back for a bit of time and allowed that siege tech to get finished. Now white actually in a lot of trouble. He's sitting on 3 gateways. He's 3 gate observer off 2 base, has not yet got a third. We're approaching the 8-minute mark. Kiko in firm control, so Kiko's in a really good situation. He's running on 3, so 3 gate versus 3 factory. That's definitely Terran sided. The siege tank count is growing. The statement I wasn't able to make earlier because of the action on the field is Terran has also been trying to delay siege tech as long as possible. Absolutely trying to push it back. And now actually this is a situation where Kiko wanted to. He could fold back to upgrade Terran if he wanted. I have a feeling he's not going to opt for that, and I'm expecting to still see more 5 factory play. And this is where game sense has become so important in this matchup, is knowing where you're at, is with sometimes the additional factories on top of everything else. There's kind of a testing out period between the two. Okay, what's the army size looking at? Kiko trying to slide in, gets the probe kill. Huge, further delays from white on that 3rd base. Kiko just really shoving in with a scalpel and looking really strong here in this initial match. Now putting down a 4th factory. It doesn't look like he has an additional SCVs to put down a 5th. He does have the resources to do so. Starting to press out. This is an isolated Dragoon force. So this should get wiped out. The Vulture's going to try to swing around. Do they have mines to plant? Yeah, they're trying to create an assassination field to try to mitigate. Looks like instead this is just going to bleed off a few Vultures. Some SCVs actually in the midst of this as well. And I like Kiko's play here, because I think Kiko recognizes that 3rd's not up. I've been sitting on 3 factory versus however many gateway. It looks like 5 gateways finally built. Do we have Zealot leg speed? No Zealot leg speed as well. So with no Zealot leg speed, siege tech, a significant amount of siege tanks, and all of these vultures, I don't know that white's even going to be able to get his 3rd up. More Dragoons getting wiped out here on the front. Kiko in really good position here. He should start thinking about taking a 3rd in the midst of this, unless he's going to go for a contained kill shot. It looks like instead he's going to hold up short and create kind of an establishment perimeter for the long game. But man, he's done a great job. I think he is missing an opportunity to go for just a straight kill. If he had gone up to the usual 5 factories and pushed for the 11-minute, kind of having a large army, I think White would just be flat out dead. I just don't think he has the production capability to keep up, particularly as that +1, I guess +1 weapons was somewhat delayed here in the midst of everything else. But I still think he would have had an overwhelming attack force to work with, although supplies put White a little bit ahead. But without Zealot leg speed, this supply difference is what you want for Protoss. But without Zealot leg speed, it's just not the same sort of supply. Usually you want, I don't know, Arbiter, you want Arbiter, you want High Templar, you want, it's definitely Zealot leg speed to try to push this back. And right now, I think White getting away with a little bit of murder and the fact that he can't do anything to Kiko right this second, honestly. The siege tank count is large enough. There's enough vultures. The production is much better on Kiko's side of the field. And without Zealot leg speed even to engage some of these armies, it's just a scary situation. And Kiko is grabbing his third, but honestly, I feel like to really capitalize to the full extent, he might have wanted to go up even to an additional 2 bases. We have +1 armor, by the way, upgrading in the background in the midst of this. We got Goliath. We have the control tower going down. We have Goliath range upgrading just in case there's some drop play in the midst of this. But right now, Kiko about even on supply, which is scary. He's ahead in workers. He's going to have 3 bases to match the 3 bases, which is putting him in a great position. He has the lower section of the map somewhat isolated off. He's only got these 2 mines to kind of scout if White walks all the way around. If White, and White does have a shuttle for some shuttle bombs. So starting to engage. Looks like the Zealot's able to get on the front siege tanks. And this is just a little bit too wide open here. So Kiko looks like he's going to end up losing a lot of this at the far reinforcement point. So White with a nice engagement there, able to clear everything out between the speed Zealots. We have some trailing siege tanks in the midst of this. So where I was like, oh man, if this was, I think it was more a nice Zealot mine drag as well. Able to just clear out and reset the supply count. But even in the midst of that, you can see that the supply count is even at the end of it. So White still expended a lot of attack forces in the midst of this, and this is more a factor that Kiko's army is elsewhere. Where is Kiko's army? He's got a lot of supply out. I'm kind of wondering where it's at. He's got a vulture here. He's got a vulture there. 2 mines to the north. It looks like he's got a siege tank and 2 vultures in here. But whenever you have a reset like that, it usually favors Protoss, mostly because it's just faster to build. Dragoons and Zealots build just a lot more rapidly, and it takes time to refuel that precious siege tank count. Only double machine shop here. And also the siege tank's not queued up. So Kiko giving opportunities for White to get back into this. He does have the drop going into the main. We do have Dragoons and Zealots nearby to go ahead and clear this out. He might get a probe or 2. Actually, the probe's going to be able to defend themselves. Way to go, battle probes. So we'll try to keep an eye on this. It looks like that siege tank easily going to get cleaned up. 2 vultures here. A nice pull there from White. Pretty rapidly able to clear this up. Is going to end up losing a few probes. I don't think this was worth it for Kiko. That was a significant gas investment. He lost the dropship as well, so he's not really getting positional threat play. Looks like the vultures are going to be able to wander into the natural expansion, able to get a mine down. Mine drag not going to result in any probe kills. White is going to have to reshuffle, but this is just giving him some opportunity to lick his wounds and get back into this. In the meantime, Kiko has managed to get this third up and running. I'm hoping he's going to grab a 4th in the midst of this. This is still 3 base versus 3 base, and again, this heavily favors Terran in the midst of this, and especially at even supply and +1 weapons already being complete. And the +1 armor, it's the siege tanks that really count in the midst of this. We just now have High Templar and Psystorm being upgraded. I'm wondering if we're going to see some shuttle drops out of White to try to equalize things. But Kiko also has a massive amount of map control. If I get rid of White, you can just see the vision he's got on the map right here. And this is really another big aspect of Terran play these days, is being able to use small groups of vultures like this to keep an eye on the Protoss army. 1, to check its size, but 2, to see what it's up to, whether it's going to defend a base and whether it's going to attack a base. And this is really where Terran, I think this is kind of what separates the higher level Terran and the lower level Terran right this second, is this ability to kind of scoot around. This also informs where comsats should drop. So getting a good look at this, Kiko should be like, okay, that's a control group plus right there in the Dragoon count. That should give him a good idea of basically where he's at in the match compared to his own siege tank counts and things like that. And that also lets him know where White is on the map right this second. and it saves in comm sets. That means he can save comm sets to go ahead and if there was any sort of carrier tech switch along those lines. By the way, you can see there's already some cannons to defend against future drops. Great job from Kiko, yeah, staying on top of this and keeping the resources low off these 3 bases. Still hasn't gone and grabbed a 4th though, so I don't feel like he's really capitalizing as strongly as he could, but he's still in firm control of this match. We do have some shuttle bombs potentially, but I just don't. This is just a good amount of mech. Every time I look out, I'm expecting to see a larger army at this supply count, and I'm just trying to figure out where the rest of that is. That just army that's queued up? I will say the siege tank count is rather light for this stage in the game. I would expect to see a much larger siege tank count at this stage. It looks like White finally getting that 12 o'clock base. Kiko hasn't made moves to grab his 4th as of yet. He is running on a very healthy factory count though, at 7 compared to the similar gateway count on the opposite end, which means as long as he's hitting his macro cycles, he'll be in really, really good shape. But White has a pretty sizable concentrated army. Looks like he's trying to carve out territory that he wants to hold over the long haul anyway, to the upper right, sending out an observer just to kind of get some of those mines cleared. The more you can put your opponent in the dark at this stage, the better. We do have double shuttle for Zealot bombs. We have High Templar in one, Zealots in the other, to try to clear out an attack force. And Kiko, this is kind of the problem, in my opinion, on Radeon over the long haul for Terran, is holding the bottom right-hand quadrant is not an issue. You've got the you know, kind of the nice natural choke here, nice natural choke there, but once you start venturing out into the big center of the map, it becomes a lot harder to depict engagement. I mean, open field is just great for Protoss typically, and this is definitely where White wants to engage. So going past this thing, that might be also why he didn't opt for a 4th. Speaking of which, moving in, these siege tanks are very, very clumped up. This is a fantastic opportunity for some beautiful sides from defense matrix on the front. The High Templar, have they dropped yet, or did they all die on exit? Some Zealot bombs, the Dragoons coming. We do have some High Templar on the low ground. Finally a Psy Storm, but that Psy Storm coming very, very late in this battle. The Dragoons flanking from both ends, and it looks like White is going to be able to, he's going to end up losing, I think, the rest of these Dragoons. Well, maybe, yeah, is going to end up losing the rest of these Dragoons, but was able to peel out a lot of those siege tanks. Unfortunately, if you look at, again, the supply count numbers, as far as the flat reset, and this is where having equal bases, oh, and actually White has not saturated that 12 o'clock, and he's starting to mine out the main. Looks like he does have a Stargate to start moving towards Arbiter Tech. So lost a lot of that fight, doesn't have the supply to fill in. Kiko knows it. He's starting to bruise forward. He's going to start engaging that 12 o'clock. He's also got some minefields to the north, and that Terran problem I was talking about a second ago is also a problem for Protoss in the opposite end. If you lose a large engagement like that and don't have the supply to refill, where you can end up in a situation where you end up in a dangerous contain. Nice Zealot drops to try to stymie that sentry siege position. It's not going to end up saving the 12 o'clock, but it might at least give him a little bit of breathing room as far as a follow-up attack to try to get out of his natural expansion potentially. But we'll see. Kiko starting to, he is expanding to 6 o'clock and starting to close the news. I will be surprised if White, makes it another 3 minutes here, because he's at 2 base. This is effectively at 3 base still, although it looks like some minerals still at the main. He's down on upgrades, +2, +1. Out there versus +1, +1, so this is a nice siege tank army. He does have a Dark Templar in the mix of this, and a Science Vessel of the North, able to clear some mines along that corner, and it looks like he's going to try to go around Kiko's forces and force Kiko to peel back to engage him. But even with that, Kiko at a 53 supply advantage, more or less, with a sizable army, could probably move into this attack force and clear it out. A lot of Dark Templar mixed in, which I think is also kind of a signal where he's just that's kind of the Protoss comeback mechanic, where it's like, okay, we're gonna throw in Dark Templar to hope that the Terran just doesn't keep on top of detection, so we can get a little bit lucky here. White sneaking a very vulnerable expansion here at the 9 o'clock location. He's just hoping that Kiko doesn't scout that. That 12 o'clock base is gonna get cleaned up. Kiko just happy to hold this in the meantime. Is kind of doing an interesting, he's got an odd situation here where he's created a little bit of a contain at the far corner, but has left a lot of troops also here to the 6 o'clock and at the rally point to the natural. And I think that's giving an opportunity for White to do just this, which is to bust through the difference, a defense matrix on that forward tank. Kiko been on top of that, but this should get cleaned up easily. Unfortunately, White not able to save that 12 o'clock base. but is able to open things up so he's not absolutely dead. And if Kiko doesn't respond, okay, it looks like Kiko making his way this direction, might be able to get there before any photon cannons finish. And now the question, it kind of creates an interesting map position problem for White. White is going to move down to try to deal with these vultures here at the 9 o'clock. If Kiko responds with an attack back at the natural, he could have gone for a reseal. It looks like Kiko's happy to sit back though. He's just going to plant mines and go for a retreat otherwise, which means the Nexus is going to go up. It might delay mining a little bit, but Kiko playing very, very passively and defensively. Granted, he has the opportunity to do that. It's his game to lose at this stage. At +3 weapons now, by the way. Does he have a second armory? Almost done with, almost done with +2. He's got a huge attack force. Hasn't gone up to the full 9 factory count. One more factory missing, and he does have the 3 machine shops though to start pumping up the siege tanks. And that is, I think that's why he's floating a little bit of resources right at this second. Mostly because he's got more production coming in than he can spend. And I'm still waiting for him to grab yet another base as his main is mined out and his natural expansion is going to start. That's not his natural expansion. His natural expansion is mining out now as well. Instead of doing a few little engagements here and there to threaten out at that 9 o'clock. Looks like probes have managed to get there. Kiko just missing, it looks like a probe raid. I don't think any of these vultures got any kills. Yeah, I'm not seeing any kills across the vulture lines. White in a very defensive stance. He cannot attack into Kiko right the second, particularly with the upgrade disadvantage. Although he does have level 2. He's done a pretty good job with that. Level 2 weapon. He does have now stasis online. Doesn't have a lot of arbiters that I've seen. Let's see if we can even track down the arbiters on the field. So there's an arbiter being produced. We have another arbiter anywhere out in the map. Not seeing any. Not seeing an arbiter. Period. We do have a shuttle again with those High Templars still. I'm not sure that those were even involved in that previous fight. That would have been kind of a interesting kill. I'm looking for Kiko to actually wipe out this mine and go ahead and grab this bottom left-hand base. White's moving up, is going to be able to clear out the vultures to retake that 12 o'clock. And Kiko should start making moves soon because he's got a maxed out army. Absolutely maxed out army. He's got all sorts of territory that he could take if he wanted to. White, in the meantime, decent amount of supply himself. Sitting at a lower worker count than he wants to be. Is still only mining off 2 bases, so this is still 2 base versus, well, effectively 2 base Terran. It's 2 versus 2. It looks like there is an expansion going up top right, but it'll be a minute. But he's still down a massive amount of supply. But this is still, but Kiko being very, very cautious. If I was going to say they're knowing Kiko from previous matches, if one disadvantage of Kiko is his sometimes lack of aggression when he's in these really, really strong positions like this, and sometimes what that can result in is giving his opponent opportunities to slide back into it. He really does like playing he's very good with initial 2 factory pushes, and then he goes into kind of macro overcautious play at times. Bunch of Protoss, big Protoss ball moving out. Looks like Kiko spotted it. He wants to, again, go for an engagement. Ooh, Dragoon eating, face planting into that mine, the High Templar leading. All of the High Templar getting wiped out, which means White does not want to engage this. Going to go ahead and pull back. He does have an Arbiter and several icons. They're famous. Several Archons behind this. But Kiko respecting it because he has taken that command center upper right, which he wants to hold. 3 siege tanks in the meantime. Able to wipe out that base at the 9 o'clock. White, again, not able to create a breach line where he could go ahead and defend it. And White down to, well, he's going to retake that 12. Let's see if he just moves the probes right back in there. This base is, his third is looking very, very thin. He's got the 12 o'clock base. 6 o'clock base is happily up and running. Upper right-hand base is up. I'm not sure how Kiko's going to get workers there. That's why I was kind of expecting him to grab this base and move into it and just kind of slice across. So it looks like he is doing that now. He's building a sizable bank behind this. He's already maxed out and has nothing left really to spend resources on unless he decided to do kind of a mean thing and go for some sort of battle cruiser or whatnot, which you don't typically see in this matchup. That's where mind control all of a sudden starts shining and Sidestorm just becomes absolutely incredible. Kiko, yeah, so got this base up, but attacked out and kind of staggered his forces out to the right. So I think he might end up losing this base for free to White. Those are resources he can afford to lose clearly if you look at the mineral count in the upper right-hand corner. And I think kind of the moment here now is he's also given an opportunity for White to fill in resources himself. So White is low on resources as far as raw bank. He's gotten level 3 armor up though. And he's got a nearly maxed army himself. Double defense matrixed vessels moving in to EMP this army. And Kiko now engaging. So yeah, command center donated for free. White starting to grab that. Now Kiko moving up to go ahead and create the defensive posture. Huge side storms over a majorly clumped army. I'm looking for, big EMP on the Arbiter though as far as the follow-up, but I think White has enough spread, and the Zealots coming in a little bit late, but they are going to be able to get on top of these siege tanks. Arbiter's absorbing a lot of those siege tank shots as well. So White actually getting the favorable trade. Kiko now down in supply. That his, what was third is, well, I don't know that White wants to attack into this. I think this is a mistake, attacking into this position. He doesn't need to attack into this position. But it looks like he's going to try to barrel in and make it happen regardless. It looks like siege tanks are going to get wiped out. Trying to make his way through, but this is just turning into, killing field. So White turned around, had an opportunity. If he had repositioned those troops and assaulted bottom left, maybe cleared out some mines and went from there, or sent those Archons right there and established top right in the meantime, I think that would have given that would have shifted the momentum in the match. However, instead, Kiko able to rapidly refill. Looks like he's now starting to mine bottom left. I'm waiting for him to go ahead and grab the lower natural. And he's also grabbing this 3 o'clock. This is putting Kiko kind of in an interesting situation where, he's going to be ahead macro-wise, but at the same time, there's Arbiters out in the field. And there's a lot of territory to defend. Vultures are going to be able to hop on this probe line, completely wipe out all of the probes transferring. The problem for White, though, is he just has meager few units to really dedicate to anything. He's down to 1 base. He's got another base, but critically he's having trouble getting his probes that direction, down to 47 workers. So as far as a raw war of attrition, it's going to be hard. And White down to his last, sub 100 resources is a ton of gas. We'll see if a bunch of High Templar get filled in to make the difference. 8 High Templar queued. Not a bad unit. Something nice for Protoss at the late stages, but he is going to need minerals. Finally clearing out those mines in between. Kiko has got another near max attack force, but has still been sitting on it. Never mind, that's an engineering bay at the 3 o'clock, just to box that out. Typically, when you're talking about ultra late game TVT, Terran just needs to keep the base count even theoretically, and given normal trades, that's a win condition. So looks like Kiko doing that, patrolling, looking for Arbiters. Was worried about that Arbiter play himself, and it looks like he's finally grabbing that command center here bottom left. He's effectively down to 1 mining base here at the 6 o'clock. The 3rd is just about empty. Never mind, he's got some SCVs here bottom left. They're hidden by the mini-map right this second. White is going to be able to climb up and go ahead and grab this additional base. And I don't know that, the engineering bay will give some forewarning that that base is being grabbed, but effectively what's happening here is White is able to grab 3 additional bases, has an opportunity to maybe go for a 4th. We'll see if Kiko moves up and contests that. White starting to move up to do so. Kiko with a big Terran siege ball. Keep in mind there's going to be a lot of, Archons. I was expecting High Templar actually, but it looks like they're going to be morphed into Archons to provide kind of that big meaty back unit. This attack force gonna get splatted. Big EMPs as well. Able to clear out some of that Archon energy. They are, if you count energy as fluff, Archons are mostly fluff. And White not able to really get a full attack, but just because of positioning, able to push into this. The EMPs as well, so he's still trading fairly well. Now we have the High Templar wandering in. They should be able to clean up the rest of this. Engineering bay floating up there to the north, by the way. But Kiko still has a 54 supply advantage to go ahead and fill this in. So kind of a empty victory there for White. Expended all of his attack forces, now at half supply. He's got 2 bases running. He's got the Nexus coming up top right, but Kiko still very rapidly off his factory count. Wow, has actually gone up to the full 4 machine shops, which means he can refill that siege tank count extremely rapidly. Is leaving a few skeleton crew, again, just because just in case of those Arbiters, which we do have 1 in the field, but it's nowhere near energy. We have a factory that's been built top right. Actually, wow, Kiko kind of BMing now. Factory being built on on site attacking the SCV, trying to attack that photon cannon to try to deal with this. Did it do enough damage to the photon cannon? Mine's getting cleared mid right. I think this is get cleaned up. And that should be a dead factory. Engineering Bay actually going to occupy the other cannon. That vulture might win that. This is going to be close. Very, very close. Also forcing some units top right, but white in just not the best scenario here. 200 supply versus 100 supply. Kiko's already boxed off the section of the map he needs. He's still got a huge bank behind it. White does have a lot of gas to work with, but the EMPs have really been on point for Kiko. Engineering Bay spotting that, lifting off. Gonna redraw. Kiko trying to find space to redrop that factory. Vultures making the way up. Are they gonna be able to snipe the High Templar? Even spotting these Archons is actually significant. Re-sieging, looking for some EMPs. Yeah, just gonna hut this army now. You can see White just trying to withdraw as best he can. Science Vessel didn't have enough energy for that EMP, but this one does. That's a huge EMP as well. Caught a massive grouping of units. And there's more Science Vessels to speak of behind this, so Kiko actually probably just gonna bully into this attack force. Could wipe out everything top mid and top right in the space of this. Flurry of Storm. More Zealots marching their way through, and there's GG finally by White. Kiko takes game 1. Everything's a best of 3 here, by the way. So I'll have some opportunities from here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Welcome back. Thanks for listening.